The Kobold's Ascension Chapter 1, Rebirth in Scales and Shadows. Arius had never imagined that dying would be the beginning of something far stranger than life itself. One moment, he was a man of dreams and regrets; the next, he was waking in darkness, his body aching, his mind a foggy mess of disjointed thoughts. A damp, musky scent filled his nostrils, and the cool stone beneath him sent a shiver through his unfamiliar frame. He tried to push himself up, but his limbs moved awkwardly, smaller and weaker than he remembered. Panic surged through him. Something was wrong. He looked down, and froze. His hands were not hands at all. They were claws, sharp and curved. His arms were covered in small, overlapping green scales. His body was thin, hunched, and unfamiliar, but beneath the strange exterior, a power thrummed through him like an ember waiting to ignite. His mind scrambled for answers, but all he got was a whisper, a voice both distant and omnipresent: survive, grow, evolve. Then, before his eyes, a glowing panel materialized in the darkness, floating like an apparition: Kobold, Level 1 class, Scavenger special traits, high agility, exceptional endurance, low intelligence abilities, Scavenger senses, basic fire breath, weak claw attack experience to next level, 0-100. Arius blinked. A system? Like a game? His mind reeled, trying to grasp the implications. Had he been reborn? Transformed? Why a kobold, one of the weakest creatures in fantasy lore? Memories of his past life were slipping away, but a few remained. He had always felt like an outsider, longing for adventure, yearning for something greater than the mundane life he had left behind. Now, in this new existence, he was something else, something small and weak, yet brimming with potential. But potential meant nothing if he didn't survive. Determined, Arius took a deep breath, testing his senses. The air was damp, rich with the scent of stone, moisture, and something metallic. Blood? He listened closely, picking up distant skittering sounds, the faint dripping of water, and the occasional shift of something unseen in the darkness. With his newfound instincts guiding him, he ventured forward, each step cautious but resolute. The tunnels twisted and branched, some narrowing into tight spaces, others opening into vast caverns illuminated by glowing fungi. He realized quickly that he wasn't alone. Strange creatures lurked in the shadows, some small and harmless, others watching him with predatory interest. Arius clenched his claws. He needed to grow stronger. Chapter 2, The first trial. Hunger gnawed at his insides. How long had he been here? The cave was a labyrinth of jagged rocks and twisting tunnels, dimly illuminated by patches of bioluminescent moss. He had no idea what lay beyond, but staying still wasn't an option. Then he heard it, a clicking, skittering noise that made his new scales prickle. From the ceiling above, something large and menacing descended on spindly legs. A spider-like creature, its body a grotesque mix of chitin and muscle, its glowing red eyes locking onto him like a predator sizing up its prey. Arius froze, his instincts warring between fight and flight. He was small, weak. But then, the system flared to life again. Do you wish to fight the cave spider, level 2? Yes/no. Arius hesitated. Could he even win? Then, that whisper returned, insistent and primal: fight. Survive. Evolve. Gritting his fangs, he selected yes. The spider lunged. He barely dodged in time, his newfound agility kicking in as he scrambled across the uneven ground. His claws lashed out, scoring shallow marks on the creature's carapace, but it wasn't enough. A powerful leg swiped at him, sending him sprawling. Pain flared, but so did something else, something deeper. The ember inside him flared to life. Arius inhaled sharply, and fire surged in his chest. His throat burned as he exhaled, releasing a sputtering jet of flame. It wasn't strong, but it was enough. The fire singed the spider's face, forcing it to recoil with a shriek. Heart pounding, Arius pressed his advantage. He weaved through its flailing limbs, his small form an asset in the cramped cave. Then, with a final burst of speed, he drove his claws into its softer underbelly. The spider let out a keening wail before collapsing. The system chimed, "You have defeated a cave spider, level 2. Plus 50 experience, you have leveled up. You are now level 2. New ability unlocked, enhanced fire breath. New skill acquired, flame shield." Arius gasped as newfound power coursed through him. He had done it. He had survived. But this was just the beginning. Chapter 5, Rising from the depths. Days passed, and Arius's power continued to grow. His enhanced fire breath became stronger, capable of incinerating enemies with a single well-placed blast. His flame shield, once fleeting, lasted longer, allowing him to endure attacks that would have ended him before. His body felt stronger, more attuned to the rhythm of battle. But the caves were no longer enough. He had exhausted the weaker creatures, and he hungered for greater challenges. The system had given him strength, but he knew true power lay beyond the dark tunnels he had called home. Then, he found the path upward, a winding tunnel leading toward the surface. It was treacherous, filled with dangers he had yet to face. But Arius was no longer the weak kobold who had woken in fear. He had fought, survived, and evolved. And now, he would rise. With fire in his heart and hunger in his soul, Arius took his first step toward the world beyond the caves. Chapter 6, First Contact. The night air was crisp and unfamiliar as Arius stepped out of the cave for the first time. The stars above shimmered, vast and endless. He barely had time to take in the sight when a sudden noise caught his attention. Voices. Humans. He crouched low, instincts screaming at him to hide, but curiosity kept him frozen. A group of them, clad in armor and wielding torches, moved through the underbrush. They were speaking, but he couldn't understand them, his kobold mind struggling with the language. Then, one of them spotted him. "Monster!" a soldier shouted, drawing his sword. Panic surged through Arius. He raised his claws, trying to make some kind of gesture, but it was no use. They advanced, weapons ready. Desperate, he activated his flame shield, a burst of fire surrounding him. The soldiers hesitated, shielding their eyes from the heat. Arius knew he had only moments. He needed to learn. He needed to survive. And for that, he had to escape.